Okay, imagine this. The entire 4.5 billion-year history of our planet. I mean, from a literal ball of fire to everything we see today, all of it squeezed into a single 24-hour day. We're about to take a trip through that entire day from the very first second at midnight to see exactly where where we fit in.
But before we dive in, I want you to think about this one question. On this 24-hour clock, when do you think we show up? I'm talking about all of human civilization, every pyramid, every empire, every single thing we've ever done. When do we make our grand entrance? Morning? Maybe lunchtime? Late evening? The answer? Well, it's pretty humbling. Actually, it's kind of terrifying.
It's less than the final 0.2 of a second, 0.2 seconds. I mean, everything you've ever learned about in history class, from ancient Egypt to the invention of the internet, it all happens in the final, frantic blink of a cosmic eye. That's it. That's our entire legacy on this clock. Just let that sink in for a moment.
Okay, so how does this even work? Let's break down the math, because the scale here is just wild. Every single hour that ticks by on our clock represents 187 million years of real time. A single minute? That's 3 million years gone. And 1 second, just one tick, is 52,000 years. Think about that. On this clock, entire mountain ranges will rise and erode in just a few minutes. Human empires don't even make a blip.
All right, you ready? Here's the game plan for our trip through time. We're going to start with a planet literally forged in fire. Then we'll see life take its very first toxic breath. We'll survive a frozen snowball Earth and witness a biological Big Bang. After that, we walk with giants, watch the day the sky itself fell, and then, finally, we get to our own chaotic arrival in the last possible second.
Okay, the clock starts now. Midnight. We're going all the way back to the beginning. This isn't the Earth you know. This is a newborn planet so hellish, so unbelievably hostile, that it's named after Hades, the Greek underworld. It's a total nightmare.
So, at midnight, forget about solid ground. It doesn't exist. The entire planet is just a churning, boiling ocean of liquid rock, thousands of degrees hot. And the sky? It's not blue. It's this thick, toxic orange haze of sulfur and CO2, and it's constantly being pummeled by meteors and asteroids. This place is the definition of hostile. Life has absolutely no chance here.
And just when you think it couldn't get more violent, it does. 10 minutes past midnight on our clock, a rogue planet about the size of Mars, we call it Theia, is hurtling right toward us. The collision is, well, it's unimaginable. It releases more energy than all the nuclear weapons on Earth combined times a billion. It instantly vaporizes the surface of both planets. But here's the crazy part. In all that chaos, Theia's heavy iron core sinks and merges with Earth's, and all the debris gets blasted into orbit, forming a fiery ring that will eventually clump together to become our moon.
So get this utterly apocalyptic, world-shattering event was probably the single greatest gift the universe ever gave us. Seriously. Without the moon's gravity to act like a steadying hand, Earth's axis would wobble all over the place. Our seasons would be insane, the climate would be too chaotic for complex life, for us, to ever evolve. It's just an amazing irony. This incredible act of destruction is what ultimately made our planet stable enough for life.
Okay, let's move the clock forward. After all that violence, things finally start to calm down. The Earth begins to cool, and for what feels like an eternity, the greatest rainstorm in history falls, creating the first oceans. By 4 a.m. on our clock, the stage is finally set for what might be the most bizarre, most incredible miracle in the entire universe, life itself.
Now, if you're picturing life starting in some nice, calm, sunlit pond, think again. It starts in one of the most extreme places on the planet. We're talking deep, deep down in the pitch-black ocean, right next to these volcanic vents we call black smokers. It's a chaotic soup of superheated water and chemicals. And in that hellish environment, somehow the right chemicals click together and form the first cell that can copy itself. And you know what's wild? Every single living thing on Earth today, you, me, your dog, that tree outside your window, we all trace our ancestry back to this one single cell. We call it LUCA, the last universal common ancestor.
And then, for the next 9 hours on our clock, that's over 1.5 billion years of real time, life just chills. It stays super simple, just single-celled bacteria floating around. But then, at 1 p.m., something revolutionary happens. A tiny organism called cyanobacteria figures out a new trick: how to create energy from pure sunlight. This invention, photosynthesis,
is an absolute game changer. It's going to reshape the entire planet.
But here's the thing about this new invention. It had a waste product, and that waste product was oxygen. Now, for us, oxygen is life, but back then, it was a deadly corrosive poison. These little cyanobacteria started pumping trillions of tons of this toxic gas into the atmosphere. They caused the planet's first ever pollution crisis and triggered a mass extinction. They literally poisoned their own world, but in the process, they're the ones who turned our sky from a toxic orange to the beautiful blue we know today.
So, life's first great invention leads to its first great catastrophe. All this new oxygen in the air starts reacting with methane, which was a powerful greenhouse gas keeping the planet warm. And just like that, the planet's thermostat completely breaks. Earth's temperature plummets, and the whole world freezes over in the most extreme ice age it's ever seen.
By 2 p.m. on our clock, the planet is a giant white snowball. We're talking ice miles thick, covering everything, even the equator. Life is nearly wiped out, just barely hanging on near those deep-sea vents. And this deep freeze lasts for 5 whole hours on our clock, hundreds of millions of years. It's not until around 7 p.m. that a series of massive volcanic eruptions finally punch through the ice, flooding the atmosphere with CO2. This kicks off a runaway greenhouse effect, and by 8 a.m., the great snowball finally melts. Life is saved by volcanoes.
So after surviving a global deep freeze, you'd think things would get exciting, right? Well, not exactly. Life enters this long, quiet phase that scientists literally call the boring billion. On the surface, yeah, not much is going on. But deep in the oceans, maybe the most important event in the history of life is quietly happening. One simple cell engulfs another one, but instead of digesting it, it keeps it. The little cell inside evolves to become a tiny energy factory, the mitochondria. And bam, you have the first complex cell, a eukaryote. This single accidental team-up is the ancestor of every plant and animal, including us.
For almost the entire day, life has been pretty peaceful. But at 4 minutes past 9 in the evening, something changes forever. A creature develops the ability to eat another creature. Predation is invented. And this one act shatters the calm. It kicks off a frantic biological arms race called the Cambrian explosion. All of a sudden, in a geological instant, you see this explosion of new forms. Animals with shells, with spikes, with legs. And the biggest innovation of all? Eyes. For the first time, the world can see itself. The hunt has officially begun. All right, life is now armed and dangerous. And you know what? The oceans just aren't big enough for it anymore. It's time to conquer a whole new world, the land. And things are about to get big.
We've jumped ahead to 10:30 p.m. We're in a period called the Carboniferous. The land is covered in these huge, dense, swampy forests. And these forests are pumping out insane amounts of oxygen. The atmosphere is like 35% oxygen, way higher than our 21% today. This supercharged air is basically like a steroid for insects, and they grow to absolutely monstrous sizes. I'm talking dragonflies with the wingspan of an eagle and millipedes longer than you are tall. Pure nightmare fuel.
But this era of giant bugs and lush forests comes to a sudden, catastrophic end. At 10:40 p.m., the party's over. A chain of volcanic eruptions in what is now Siberia goes off on a scale we can't even comprehend. It poisons the air, acidifies the oceans, and basically cooks the planet. It's called the Great Dying, and it is by far the worst extinction event ever. Just look at these numbers. 96% of all species in the ocean, gone. 70% on land, gone. Life on Earth was nearly erased.
But life, well, life is tough. From the ashes of that global catastrophe, a few survivors crawl out, and among them is a group of reptiles that are about to take over. For the next hour on our clock, that's 160 million years of real time, the planet will belong to a new dynasty of giants, the dinosaurs.
And, I mean, the scale of these animals is just hard to wrap your head around. You've got the Argentinosaurus, an animal as long as 3 school buses, weighing 100 tons. Flying overhead, you've got Quetzalcoatlus, a pterosaur with the same wingspan as an F-16 fighter jet. And then, of course, the king himself, T-Rex, an apex predator with a bite so powerful it could crush bone. For an hour on our clock, they were the absolute, undisputed masters of the world. And then, at 11:39 p.m., it all ends.
In a flash, their 160-million-year empire is wiped out. An asteroid bigger than Mount Everest hits the planet with the force of billions of atomic bombs. The impact vaporizes thousands of miles of coastline, sends superheated debris flying into the atmosphere that rains back down as molten glass, setting the world on fire. Then, a thick cloud of dust and ash blocks out the sun for years, creating a nuclear winter that kills the plants, collapses the food chain, and spells doom for the dinosaurs. Their reign ends not over millennia, but in a single, terrible day.
And as the great tyrants fall, the world they ruled is inherited by the meek. Tiny, furry creatures, our ancestors, that survived the apocalypse by hiding underground, now emerge into a very different world. A world free of giant predators. The age of dinosaurs is over. The age of mammals, our age, is about to begin.
Okay, so we've reached the final minute of the day. And this is where the pace just becomes absolutely frantic. The entire story of humanity is crammed into this last minute. Our first ape-like ancestors don't even show up until 11:59 p.m. Our species, Homo sapiens, we arrive with just 2 seconds left until midnight. 2 seconds. The invention of farming happens in the last 0.2 seconds. The Great Pyramids of Egypt are built in the last 0.1 seconds, and the entire modern world, the Industrial Revolution, cars, planes, the internet, all of that flashes by in the final 100th of a second.
Which leads to a pretty sobering thought. In that tiny, tiny sliver of time, we have changed the planet more than any other species ever. We've moved mountains, rerouted rivers, changed the very chemistry of the air and oceans. In our final fraction of a second, we've become a force of nature ourselves, kind of like a man-made asteroid.
And just like that, our 24 hours are up. The clock strikes midnight. A new day has begun. We've just traveled across 4.5 billion years of chaos, destruction, and unbelievable luck. And it leaves us with one heck of a question, doesn't it? Seeing just how short our time is, and how quickly even a 16-million-year empire can vanish, what are we going to do with our second on the clock? The story of tomorrow isn't written yet. We're writing it right now.